Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. As always, I'm here to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. If you're not already a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. As a member, you get access to the model you see here, which I'll be using throughout the video. A single lineup builder, a multi-lineup builder, a private Discord server full of DFS pros to help you improve your game. And we do have a 30-minute window leading up to each slate lock where you can ask your lineup-specific and slate-specific questions. Without further ado, let's get into the slate. We got a nice 7-game slate tonight. There's actually 9 NBA games being played today. But the first two are not on either main slate, so we're not going to discuss those. Those are the Lakers at Pelicans and Wizards at Nets. So I'm honestly kind of glad those aren't on the slate. Obviously, the Nets dealing with the Kyrie trade request right now. It's kind of a complicated situation. So we could just dive right into the 7 o'clock window. I am going to slowly build lineups on both DraftKings and FanDuel as we talk through this video. I'm going to go game by game, team by team. I have the injury reports up. We have most of them. The teams that are on back-to-backs have not yet released their injury reports as of 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I didn't want to wait much longer. Wanted to get you guys this video out as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's get into it here. Excuse me. So the first game on the slate we have the Clippers at the Knicks. The Knicks are 3.5-point underdogs at home. Just a 219-point game total here. So first we'll start with the Clippers, and they're about as healthy as they've been all season. John Wall is out tonight. That is the only name on their injury report. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, obviously solid options on both sites. You're getting a discount on Paul George. Obviously not quite the fantasy producer that Kawhi Leonard has been over the last few weeks, but he's comparable, and we are getting him at a discount. I do like him on both sites, especially on FanDuel, where you see he's only 8,300. That just feels too cheap to me. Obviously not the best game environment against the Knicks, but it's not one we have to run from either. This should be a competitive game. So I do like Paul George. I consider him a core play / priority over on FanDuel. He's similar on DK at 8,900, but there are some solid payups, so I don't think I want to pencil him in just yet. But with no injury news, I mean, after George and Leonard, it's really tough to prioritize anyone here. I mean, Zubac, he's your boomer bust center. He's got upside, but a pretty low floor. I mean, we see night to night. He either has a great game or a terrible one, which kind of tells me he's a good tournament play, but not really something you need to be using in cash or prioritizing. I mean, as far as secondary options go, there's really just nothing else I'm all that interested in for value. I mean, Marcus Morris probably gets to start alongside Norm Powell. I don't mind Norm Powell, but again, with George and Leonard in the lineup, he's really tough to want to get to. Terrence Mann's been starting a point guard, another player I'm just not all that interested in. Again, low total, tough game environment, and this is a healthy team. They're all kind of priced where they should be. So I like Leonard on both sides if you can afford him. Wouldn't call him a priority. Really like George on both sides, but much better on FanDuel where you're getting him for 600 less than he is over on DK. Okay, so now we can move over to the Knicks side of the ball here. Taking a look, Ryan Arcidiacono, he's been out. He's questionable. Jalen Brunson is questionable. So that's the major piece of news we need to keep an eye on. Mitchell Robinson's still out for the Knicks as well in that front court. So if Jalen Brunson's out, I do imagine we see Emmanuel quickly get the start again. He was super chalky last late when Brunson was out. Put up a total dud. I think he had like 20 fantasy points flat, which obviously isn't what you want out of him. His price has come up a bit. He's just under 6K now. But if Brunson's out again, I do think you can get to quickly on both sites. If people want to shy away because of that dud last time out, I'm happy to go back there. Again, not a great game environment against the Clippers, but it should be a competitive spot. So definitely keep an eye on that Brunson news. If Brunson's in, he looks solid on both sites. 8,600 on DK, 8K on FanDuel. Just reasonably priced. Not something we need to prioritize necessarily. But Julius Randle, I mean, only 9,200 over on FanDuel. If Brunson's out, that's a major priority for me. At 10K flat on DK, he's kind of priced where he should be. With Brunson in, not going to get to too much Randle, but with Brunson out, I would consider him a priority there as well. RJ Barrett had a great game in the absence of Jalen Brunson last time out. I think he's fine either way as a small forward, obviously one of the thinner positions on the slate. And then I will mention Quentin Grimes. If Quickly starts alongside Grimes and Brunson's out, I'm going to like Grimes here for value. I think we could see Grimes start even if Brunson's in. Not the most exciting play, not the highest fantasy point per minute rate. I think he's around 0.7, zero point 0.8 right now in terms of fantasy points per minute on both sites. But at the same time, he's been good. And I mean, it's on these slates where it's tough to find value. He certainly makes some sense. In the front court, I do think we see Jericho Sims get the nod again. If he's the starting center, you could use him here. He just hasn't been all that consistent. Isaiah Hartenstein coming off the bench has had a few decent games, but whoever starts at center for Robinson is in play. I just wouldn't call either of them a priority necessarily. Again, rather, this is a game with a 219 point total, so not one we really have to rush to get to a bunch of pieces of. But I do want to reiterate: keep an eye on that Jalen Brunson news. If he's out, it would be a major boost to Quickly, Grimes, Randall, Barrett, all the starters for the Knicks. All right. So moving into the next game on the slate, we have two teams on back-to-backs, which is always fun. We have the Suns at the Pistons. The Suns are 4.5-point favorites on the road here. I'm just going to scroll down to Phoenix. Yeah, so this one's tricky. Devin Booker's still out. So as long as Chris Paul's in, I do think you can go to him. He's been inconsistent, 8,100 on FanDuel, 8,500 on DK. Let's pull up this game on DK. Obviously, the injury report's not out yet, but we can kind of see where things stand. I mean, last night Cam Johnson was out. If he's out again, that should create minutes for someone like Dario Saric. If Saric starts, I think you could go to him for value. He had a huge game last night. And yeah, I think he's up around 5K on FanDuel, so I'm not going to get too much over there. But look at this: 13 rebounds, 14 points, nice little double for Dario at 3,500. If he starts and Cam Johnson's out again, I would like him a lot as a value play. I just want to confirm that over on FanDuel, he is still overpriced. Not small forward. Where is he? Oh yeah, 5,100. I mean, as a last man, if he starts, and we have Booker, and we have all these other guys out for the Suns, maybe you can get to him there. But really, as things stand, not someone I'm rushing to get to. DeAndre Ayton looks good here. Some trade rumors floating around DeAndre Ayton, but at the same time, he's a little bit too cheap. As long as he's in that starting lineup, he should be good to go. Mikal Bridges looks fine. Cam Johnson, if he's in, looks fine. Torrey Craig, never a great fantasy producer, but really, it's going to be Chris Paul here that you're targeting. Then DeAndre Ayton. And if Cam Johnson's out, I do like Saric a lot on DK, less so on FanDuel, but he would be viable as a starter over there. Again, a good matchup against Detroit. Sorry, 227-point game total. But yeah, I don't know. It's just tough until we get that injury report. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Chris Paul gets ruled out for rest or something like that. If he is, then maybe we get Damian Lee or Saban Lee as the starter. Campaign's still out, obviously. Dwayne Washington was cut, so he's off the team now. So just keep an eye on that news. I hate when we don't have injury reports on this show because it's really tough to know who to target. But as things stand, I do like Chris Paul on both sides. He's priced reasonably. Do like DeAndre Ayton a lot as well at 72 or 7,700 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DK. So regardless, I think we can go to Ayton. Over on the Detroit side of things, again, another team with no injury report out yet, which is fun. We'll click over to Detroit. I mean, still no Bagley, obviously. Isaiah Stewart played last night. It is a back-to-back. He does seem fully healthy. He had a great game. If he's in and starting at 4,600, I do like him a lot over on DK. We're looking at 4,400 on FanDuel. So if you need value in that front court, I do think Stewart's fine here. Obviously, Duren's probably going to get the start at center, but if we see Isaiah Stewart starting at the 4, the Pistons have shown they're not afraid to play these guys next to each other, which definitely helps Stewart's upside in fantasy. It does cut into Duren's production a little, but with Stewart kind of working his way back from an injury and the Pistons kind of half tanking, it wouldn't shock me to see Stewart get rested here. So keep an eye on that. Bojan Bogdanovic, it seems the Pistons do not want to part with him, but he looks solid here, sub 7K on both sides. Obviously very scoring dependent, but he does have a high ceiling. Similar with Jaden Ivey, very scoring dependent, pretty high ceiling, but priced where he should be. There's no real priorities for me here. I mean, if we see Alec Burks get the start at point guard again, I could see going to him. Didn't have a great game last night, but he has been starting at the point, and Killian Hayes has been coming off the bench. So let's take a quick look here at Burks' minutes. Only 26 minutes. He's been closing like every other night. I think he could close again here. I don't want to look too much into these minute patterns, 30, 27, 30, 26. Does that mean he plays 30 tonight? Hopefully. But I do like Burks on both sides. I think you could pencil him in as long as he's the starting point guard. 5,100 over on DK is totally reasonable. And you can play him with shooting guard on FanDuel for the same price. So Alec Burks looks good here. Just make sure he's starting. Wouldn't shock me if they went back to Killian Hayes, but as things stand, I do like Burks. But again, Isaiah Stewart looks good in that front court. Not necessarily something you have to force. But unless we get more value to open up, I do think over on FanDuel, where you have that power forward eligibility, he makes a lot of sense. So I'll pencil in some Pistons for now. Maybe I X them out as we get through the slate and find better value plays. But as things stand, no real priorities here. It's just tough for me to talk about these two teams because there is no injury reports yet. Again, both teams on back-to-backs. Don't be shocked if any of their main starters end up rested. Moving into the 8 o'clock window here, we have the Thunder hosting the Rockets. The Thunder are 10-point favorites at home. Houston, another team on a back-to-back. So this is becoming a theme. Kevin Porter Jr. is still going to be out. We are seeing a Q tag on Jalen Green. I'm not sure where this is coming from. Silas said Thursday that he's hoping Green is available Saturday. So we have to keep an eye on this injury report here. If Green is in and Porter is out, he's going to look excellent. I don't think they would limit him. I don't think they're going to rush him back to play unless he's fully healthy. So definitely keep an eye on that situation there. I do not expect Kevin Porter to be back. But again, if Green is back, 6,900 on FanDuel would look awesome. 7,500 on DK solid as well. So you're going to need Green in, and we're also hoping we get word that he's not going to be limited. To me, it seemed like the Rockets just kind of at the bottom of the standings. They're not going to bring anybody back unless they're fully healthy. So if Green's in, I think he's going to be good to go for his full run of minutes. If he's out, though, Alperen Sengun, he's been a dud over these last two slates. He's had some huge games with these guards out, but lately he just hasn't been getting there. I think teams know they need to focus on him, and that's kind of really limited his upside. I do think we could get him here at low ownership. I think even if Green's back, he's viable, but that 9,100 on DK is really tough for me to want to get to. Let's click over to Houston on the model. Yeah, I mean, he's 8,300 on FanDuel. Certainly an easier pill to swallow over there. Um, but yeah, you're using up your one center spot, so it's a little tough to get excited about. But at the same time, again, if Green and Porter are both out, I do think you can get to Sengun in tournaments. Wouldn't call him a core play, as I have on past slates. But yeah, I mean, Jabari Smith looks fine in that front court. KJ Martin's been consistent. If we ever get a Terry Eason start, he's going to look really good here. Really low shooting percentage, but he does get his own rebounds. So this is a guy who's collecting putbacks. Very high fantasy point per minute rate as a result. So just keep an eye on that starting lineup. If he slides in, he looks good. Deshaun Nix has been starting a point guard. If Green's back, I won't get to any Knicks, but if Green is out again, then I could see getting to some Knicks as a value play. But again, it's really frustrating when we don't have these injury reports. It's almost noon, and we still don't know what the Rockets are going to be doing tonight, so definitely keep an eye on that injury news. We'll be discussing it in the Discord, and the model will update in real time as well as players are ruled out. You'll see the ownerships adjust, the value ratings adjust, the OF index adjusts, everything adjusts as it should. So just keep an eye on that news. We could talk about the Thunder, though. They are not on a back-to-back, so we do have their injury report. No Chet Holmgren, obviously, he's out for the season. Poku, Robinson, Earl, both out in that front court. So they're very thin at center. But usually we always feel the same about this OKC team. I mean, it's tough to trust anyone outside of SGA and Josh Giddey. They'll get their full run. They'll get their real minutes. But we've seen slates where Isaiah Joe is chalky. We've seen slates where Aaron Wiggins is chalky. Keep an eye on the starting lineup. I mean, whoever starts at the 2 and 3, Lou Dort's out as well, is going to be appealing here. But yeah, at the same time, I mean, OKC does this thing where they kind of play everyone in the rotation like 24 minutes other than SGA and Giddey. So it can be really, really frustrating when you're trying to use these guys as value plays. Outside of Giddey and SGA, the one guy I will talk about here is Kenrich Williams. If he gets the nod at center, he's going to look solid on both sides. You're actually getting him playing center against a soft Houston team, but he has small forward eligibility on both sides and power forward eligibility as well over on DK, which is obviously a much tougher position to fill than that center spot. So keep it on the starting lineup for OKC. If Kenrich Williams is in it, I like him. If he's not, the only two plays I'm interested in here are SGA and Giddey, but I do like both of them a lot. Really, really soft matchup against Houston, and we've seen some huge ceiling games out of SGA. Love him. Probably my favorite guard on this slate. There are a lot of good ones. I'm going to go ahead and pencil him in on both sides. I think as far as pay ups go, he's probably my favorite. So just starting to build a little bit. We can move into the next game on the slate now. We have looks like the Bucks are hosting the Heat. The Bucks are 5-point favorites at home, 222.5 point game total here. A lot of injury news. I mean, we do have the injury reports. We'll start with Milwaukee. There's a little bit less complicated, I think. So Giannis is listed as probable. Obviously, that's great to see. If he's in, he's one of the best plays on the slate. Not the best matchup against Miami, but whenever you get him in a competitive game, that's certainly a plus. We do see the Bucks blowing out teams consistently, which obviously limits his upside when he's not playing deep into the fourth quarter. But I do like him here. 11.9 on DK, 12K on FanDuel. Going to be tough to get to unless we get more value. But yeah, obviously Giannis is a good play as things stand. No Bobby Portis still. So that means we can get to some Pat Connaughton as a value play. Don't mind him on either site. Wouldn't call him a priority though. Chris Middleton's been coming off the bench. If we do see him slide into that starting lineup, that could mean he's seeing extended minutes at 5,100 on DK. If we get word that he's no longer limited in he is suddenly in the starting lineup, he would be very appealing here. But as things stand, I'm kind of pumping the brakes on Middleton until we see him getting consistent run. I do like Drew Holiday as well. Too cheap on FanDuel at 7,600. 81 on DK is totally reasonable. Brook Lopez, he gets overlooked every single night, but he's a little bit too cheap on both sides. 6,300 on FanDuel, 59 on DK. I think he looks fine here as well. So Pat Connaughton's kind of my favorite mid-range value play here. Could see maybe getting to some Grayson Allen or Joe Ingles as a last man in large field tournaments, but really tough to trust any of these Bucks other than Giannis, Drew, and Lopez in a tough matchup against Miami. So we can move over to the Heat side of the ball now. Let's see here. Jovic is out. Kyle Lowry is out. Victor Oladipo is doubtful. Duncan Robinson is out. Orlando Robinson's out. Gabe Vincent is questionable. So with Lowry out, if Vincent's in, he's going to be one of the best value plays on the slate. I think we need to keep an eye on this, especially. I think he goes here personally. I mean, obviously, listed as questionable. That's not something we can rely on. But 3,500 on DK, obviously, that's going to be one of the better value plays over there. Then you can play him at either guard position over on FanDuel. I believe. Yep, he's got shooting guard eligibility here, 3,900 over there. So if Vincent's in, he's one of the best value plays on the slate. Kyle Lowry's been terrible. I think they want to trade him. I don't know that anyone wants him though. So yeah, situation to keep an eye on, but I do expect Kyle Lowry to miss tonight. And Gabe Vincent is listed as questionable. You see the big ownership on him though. If he's in, he is one of the best value plays on the slate. Bam looks good on both sites. 8K flat on DK, 8,400 over on FanDuel. Jimmy Butler a little bit too cheap on DK at 7,400. I definitely like him better over there than where he's priced at 85 over on FanDuel. And then Tyler Hero 7K flat on DK, 6,900 on FanDuel. I mean, all three of those guys look solid. I don't know that I'm forcing any of them in. I do like Bam as a power forward option on FanDuel, where you're getting him at 8,400 against Milwaukee. He's gonna have to be on the floor a lot. Not that he isn't already constantly, but yeah, I mean, he's been productive. And I mean, when this whole team is healthy, he has shown that he is probably the highest ceiling of the bunch. Coming off a 50+ point fantasy game, we've seen those 50s in his box score. And he's consistently hitting value. So I do like Bam here. I could see getting to him on both sites. I don't mind him on DK either because you do have the two center spots. So you can use him at AK flat, still get another value center and feel pretty good about your lineup. So Jimmy, Hero, Bam, all solid. Bam's my favorite of the three. Definitely like Jimmy over on DK though, where he's just 7,400. So tough game, competitive game, really fun one if you're a basketball fan. Not the best game environment as a DFS player, but at the same time, a lot to like here. They're all kind of priced where they should be on Miami. But with Lowry out, maybe some of those guys get some extra usage. And again, if Gabe Vincent's in and starting, he is one of your best value plays on the slate. All right, moving into the next game on the slate now, we have the Trailblazers at the Bulls. The Bulls are 4-point favorites at home. 235-point game total here, I think, is one of the highest on the slate, so it is a good game environment. The Blazers are on a back-to-back, so we have to at least pump the brakes a little bit when talking about Portland. I don't want to get too overzealous here, but Dame, I already mentioned SGA is probably my favorite guard play on the slate, but Dame is kind of 1B. I like him just as much, if not more. You're getting him at a bit of an ownership discount. Not quite as good of a matchup as SGA seeing against Houston, but Chicago's defense really hasn't been all that great this season. Really like Dame on both sides. Jeremy Grant, he's been seeing a boost here with what's his name, Nurkic out of the lineup. I imagine we see Drew Eubanks starting at center again. He kind of stunk last night, but I do think we see a better showing from him here. So I'm going to go ahead and pencil him in. I like Drew Eubanks, 3,600. You're getting starting center minutes. I mean, yeah, he's coming off a dud. I'm thinking that is going to curve his ownership a bit, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. It's just tough to find anyone that cheap with that kind of upside. So even 4,800 over on FanDuel, I think I'm more comfortable going to Eubanks and Stewart. But at the same time, I could see using both. I just don't want to fill up all these spots right now. But at the same time, yeah, Eubanks looks great as a value center. Much, much easier to get to on DK, where he's only 3,600. Even if he only has 15, 20 fantasy points, he's not going to kill you here. But Nurkic he's going to be out for a few weeks, it sounds like. So that's a boost to Grant. That's a huge boost to Eubanks. I mean, Trendon Wofford coming off the bench, whenever we see Eubanks get in foul trouble, he's going to be the one to benefit. If you ever see him starting over Eubanks, then definitely get to Wofford instead. He's going to be the much better fantasy play. We see him drawing a lot of ownership here. I think it's because Eubanks was in foul trouble last night. He had a really good game, but if people are just going to game log watch, I'm happy to get back to Eubanks here. So really like Eubanks, really like Dame. Grant seeing a nice boost here as well. He looks solid on both sides. Josh Hart, so inconsistent, but he is cheap at small forward, so he's going to be in play. Anthony Simons had a solid game last night. Scoring dependent guard, very high ceiling but low floor. But in this matchup, he looks good. So in summary, I really like all the Blazers starters. Keep an eye on that front court. If Eubanks is at center again, I do like him here. I can see getting to Trendon Wofford as a pivot, but if he's drawing more ownership off the bench, I don't see why we wouldn't just go back to Eubanks. So keep an eye on this situation. Both these guys are going to be in play. Let me just take a look at Wofford because yeah, I mean, on FanDuel, where you're paying almost 5K for Eubanks, I think there is more merit to maybe making that pivot. But like I said, at the same time, I think people are game log watching. Wofford got more minutes last night because Eubanks was in foul trouble. I don't think that happens again here, but at the same time, I mean, you're getting $1,100 discount. I mean, Watford's going to look good. He's going to probably see 18 to 24 minutes regardless. So I do like Watford. I just think people are overlooking Eubanks. It's funny how people have such short memories. Um, Eubanks has been the better player all year, so I'm going to go back to Drew here. But definitely keep an eye on that starting lineup. If Portland decides to make a change, then we would have to make that pivot as well. Over on the Bulls side of things here, pretty extensive injury report. Nothing too major though. Ball's obviously out. Caruso's questionable. Javante Green is out. Patrick Williams is questionable. Vucevic is probable. So this is one of those teams when they're healthy, it's tough to know what to pluck, but I like all the big three here. It is a good game environment against Portland. Levine at 7,400 on FanDuel. You're getting small forward and shooting guard eligibility. Way too cheap over there. Like him a lot. DeRozan, solid option as well. 8,400 on FanDuel, 88 on DK. And then Vooch, he looks good against Portland. We're talking about that center situation with Nurkic out. I mean, this is a really good matchup for Vucevic with him facing off against Watford and or Eubanks. So I do like Vooch here. A little bit too expensive for my taste on DK, but in tournaments, he's going to be appealing sub 10% owned. Like him a lot on FanDuel. And then DeRozan and Levine both look good. I think you can go either way. Obviously, Levine a little bit cheaper, a little bit less consistent as he's I mean, both of these guys are more scoring dependent, but Levine just has been a little bit less consistent. DeRozan's flashed a bit higher of a ceiling with this whole team healthy, but I don't think you can go wrong with either of these guys. Patrick Williams listed as questionable. I think he goes here. If he ends up out and maybe we see Derek Jones start, I could see Jones becoming an interesting value play, but really not something I'm rushing to get to. If Caruso's out, maybe Ayo or Kobe White are fine as value plays, but neither I'm really excited to roster. So fine options here for Chicago, but nothing we really have to force. All right. I think we have just one more, no, two more games here. Next game on the slate is the Warriors hosting the Mavericks. Warriors are 10-point favorites at home. Let's start with Dallas. I mean, this is obviously one we have to keep an eye on. You see how much ownership's going to this Dallas team, but Dinwiddie's questionable. So we already know that Luke is going to be out. So all the other starters are going to see a major, major bump here. Josh Green's been excellent lately. I really like him as a value play. He's going to look even better if Dinwiddie's out of the lineup, so keep an eye on that one. If Dinwiddie's in, he's kind of your first play in. 7,100 on DK, 8K over on FanDuel. I'd have to pull someone here. I could move Paul George to small forward, get Spencer Dinwiddie at that shooting guard position. So Yeah, Dinwiddie's in, Luka's out. Dinwiddie's going to be one of the best plays on the slate, but Dinwiddie's listed as questionable, so this is a situation we have to keep an eye on. Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to look good here either way, regardless of whether Dinwiddie's in or out. If he slides into that starting lineup, I think that's a small boost for him, but I don't mind him coming off the bench. Really like Hardaway, really like Powell. There's plenty of good center plays on the slate, so I'm not rushing to Dwight Powell. But as far as value goes, you at least know he's going to get the minutes. His fantasy point per minute rate has been up a little bit this year. Still not someone we're rushing to get to in DFS. Speaking of DFS, I do like Dorian Finney-Smith on both sites. Again, not a very high fantasy point per minute producer, but with Luka out, he is going to see a considerable bump in his production. Like I said, the one value play I really, really like here is Josh Green. I think he's too cheap on both sites. Um, so I'm going to be getting to a lot of green, and if Dinwiddie's out, I think he's going to look even better. If Dinwiddie's out, I think we could maybe see Frank Ntilikina get the start. He's more of a defensive-minded point guard, though, kind of like Davion Mitchell last night. Not something we'd have to rush to get to. Jaden Hardy, I would want to get some shares of if Dinwiddie is out of the lineup. So we have to keep an eye on these Mavericks. As things stand, Dinwiddie is a core play for me. I consider Tim Hardaway Jr. kind of a core play as well. Powell, DFS as secondary options. Really like Josh Green. Probably more than the field does, but I mean, he is pretty popular, pushing 30% ownership on both sides. But if Dinwiddie's out, I think you go ahead and lock in Green and feel good about it. He's been excellent as an offensive producer for this team. Um, so yeah, Dallas, one of the most important situations on the slate, but we really need to keep an eye on that Dinwiddie news. If Dinwiddie's in, again, core him. If he's out, everyone else is going to look good. Over on the Golden State side of things, Curry is listed as probable. Draymond's questionable. Clay Thomas is questionable as well. So if everyone's in, this is just one of those teams. They all look okay. I think you could use Curry, Thompson, Poole, Green, Wiggins, feel okay about it. But if we get Thompson out, that's going to be a boost to Wiggins. Um, and that should boost Dante DiVincenzo as well. So those are two plays to keep an eye on. If Draymond's in, he's fine. If Draymond's out, I think we see Kuminga get the start at the 4 again, so he would become a very appealing value play. But this is a situation we need to keep an eye on. Steve Kerr, obviously, not the most reliable when it comes to injury reporting. We saw Draymond scratched 1 minute after lock last time out. So keep an eye on the news, keep an eye on the starting lineup, and maybe proceed with caution when rostering any Warriors here. But yeah, Steph is fine. Clay's fine if he's in. If Clay's out, I would like Poole a little bit more. Same with Andrew Wiggins. And then DiVincenzo and Kuminga would be very valuable here if we get both or one of those guys ruled out. So, yeah, situation we need to keep an eye on. I mean, if Draymond's in and Clay's out, I don't think you can get to Kuminga. If Draymond's out and Clay's in, I don't think you can get to DiVincenzo very much. But yeah, keep an eye on this situation for Golden State. I do think we're going to get some value out of them here. But as things stand, it's just a tough situation to discuss. Even with their injury report out, it's just a lot of Q tags. And Steve Kerr, going to Steve Kerr. So. Moving into the last game on the slate now, we have the Hawks against the Nuggets. The Nuggets are 6-point favorites at home, 233.5 point game total here, one of the highest totals on the slate. We can start on the Atlanta side of things. I believe, yep, they're on a back to back, so no injury report yet out of them. Taking a look, see what DK has reported here. I mean, DK doesn't go off the official injury reports, but sometimes we can get news a little bit early, just if there's coach speak from earlier in the week. But look at this, the whole team's healthy. It is a back to back. Wouldn't shock me if we see Trey rested. I think he plays. So if all these guys are in, I think Trey, Murray, Capella, Collins, all decent tournament options, but nothing we're prioritizing. Not really all that interested in Hunter or Bogdanovich, but they'd be fine here as well. But a situation we need to keep an eye on. If we get some of these guys ruled out, obviously the other starters would become more appealing. Um, no priorities on the Hawks though, as things stand. Yeah, so we have Nikola Jokic listed as questionable tonight. Aaron Gordon listed as questionable as well. Another major injury um, news piece that we have to keep an eye on. So if Jokic is in, he's one of my favorite payups on the slate. I talked about SGA, but if you can only get to one of them, I mean, it's tough to argue with getting to Joker. Center not as deep as it is on some other slates. But if Jokic is out, I mean, that's going to be a major boost to everyone here. We're going to see Jamal Murray see a major bump in usage. Michael Porter Jr., who already looks good here. If Aaron Gordon's out, Porter's going to look solid again. Kentavious Caldwell Pope is on fire right now. He's priced above 5K now, but I could totally see getting to him here as well. I think if Jokic is out, we probably see DeAndre Jordan get the nod at center. He's okay as a value play, never someone I consistently trust. This is the last game on the slate, but it only starts 2 hours after the first game on the slate, so hopefully we do have most of this news. Um, But if either or both of these guys are ruled out, I could see Bruce Brown becoming extremely popular. Whenever he slides into the starting lineup, he's been excellent this season. But really, Murray's the biggest beneficiary with Jokic out. If Jokic is out, if Jokic is in, he's the priority here. Aaron Gordon questionable as well. Look at the wings if he's out. That's Michael Porter Jr. and KCP. But another injury situation we need to keep an eye on. So I do apologize we don't have more news as things stand, but taking a look at things, I mean, I penciled in Burks. Gabe Vincent's questionable, but if he's in for Kyle Lowry starting, I think you want to get to him on both sites. Bam looks fine on both sites. SGA, who I just talked about, Drew Eubanks as well. Keep it on that front court for Portland. Maybe you pivot to Trent and Wofford if he gets the nod over Eubanks. But to me, Eubanks is probably the starter here. Better matchup than he saw last night. And yeah, I mean, he put up that dud, but I don't know. 4 personal fouls. He was in some foul trouble. And yeah, I think that's the reason Watford went off. So if the field just completely pivots to Trent and Watford, this is kind of the place to zig where they zag. And I really do like Eubanks a lot here. So just taking a look at the slate as a whole once more. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Please like the video. Also subscribe to the channel. Helps us get more free content like this out to you on a daily basis. Jokic, questionable if he's in. He's excellent if you can afford him. Giannis, obviously, great play here, even against Miami, listed as probable. I do prefer Jokic of the two if you're only getting to one of those two. But as things stand, where we don't have a ton of value, I think it makes sense to maybe just pay up for one of SGA or Lillard instead. Don't mind Leonard. Much easier to get to Paul George. Still waiting on news in Dallas. If Dinwiddie's in, he's a core play on both sites. If he's out, all the other starters are going to look good, especially at like a THJ and a Green for Dallas. So sorting by value, I'll just use FanDuel first. Josh Christopher's popping towards the top. I mean, Daishion Nix has been getting the start at point guard, but I could see maybe pivoting to Christopher if he gets the start over him. Caleb Martin looks fine for Miami. He should see a little bit of extra run with Lowry out of the lineup. But yeah, it's tough to really talk about these slates so early in the day. I gave you guys the news we have to keep an eye on, but obviously things could change dramatically throughout the day. Sometimes we get players that aren't even on the injury report that get ruled out. So yeah, obviously a fluid situation, NBA DFS, which is all the more reason to sign up to Occupy Fantasy. You get access to the model here that uploads updates in real time, our single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, also our Discord server where we'll be breaking down this injury news. And there is a 30-minute window leading up to each slate lock where you can ask your slate and lineup specific questions. Oh, sorry guys, a little bit tripped over my words today. Just been a long morning, but really looking forward to getting into the slate tonight. Hoping all the news breaks our way. Once again, my name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. Let's have some fun and make some money. Good luck, everyone. Take care.